So Jan, good to see you, good to meet you, and nice to talk to you today.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for your time. So bitmark is extremely versatile and it's applicable to so many different use cases and companies. So it's always very interesting to hear from companies that have implemented bitmark already and that use bitmark. So can you give us a short introduction? What Classtime is about? What are you doing?
Sure, happy to do so. Classtime is a solution for formative and summative assessments, and is used in schools by teachers to engage with their students, basically on any type of assessment. That can be informal during the class, informal for homeworks, or self-study, or also for high stakes exams. It gives basically an easy possibility to create questions and basically activate them for students to solve in various settings, authenticated or not authenticated, etc. And yeah, we're active in Switzerland, Germany, where we have the most of our institutional clients, but the solution is has a freemium model, so it's used in now 25 countries.
Super interesting and quite impressive, your scale already. That's really cool. And what was the initial problem and how did bitmark help you solve it?
Yeah, so I mean, we're a company that is offering basically the platform for formative and summative assessments, and as such we're kind of content agnostic. So we ask basically, or initially we asked and still do, to teachers to create their own questions that are used in their lessons and for their kind of teaching purposes. Yeah, we've tried to basically to the extent possible to motivate sharing content that works to some extent, but obviously it's also important and becoming increasingly important for us to host high quality publisher content, assessment questions on our platform, and interacting with the publishers. The request became more and more prominent to basically import those questions easily from whatever format they operate in, and then also export the questions, so to not become dependent on Classtime. And that's also to some extent is important for publishers that work with Classtime as an authoring tool and produce content originally in Classtime. And then I guess the best solution to do that is through an open format, in order to not basically build the directions back and forth to in each individual publisher to Classtime, but through that kind of intermediate format. Then actually I had this idea kind of myself that would be useful, right, to sort of leverage leverage the work and make it accessible to also then other apps, and build an ecosystem kind of. When I talked to Gaba, I think the proposition that he made, and the work that the association around Gaba and others obviously already did was actually perfect, right? And that's how we basically embarked on it, and tried to solve that problem of content import export in an efficient and effective way, and in doing so, basically contributing to kind of an ecosystem idea to leverage that work also for other players in the market.
Oh, that sounds really interesting. Okay. Yeah, so the best case when the solution you need is already there and you don't have to build it.
Absolutely.
That saves a lot of time. Yeah.
Yes.
But how did you learn about bitmark anyway?
How did I learn? I guess through also basically talking to players in the ecosystem, might be through task-based. That was involved with Get More Brain / bitmark earlier on, and I think that was kind of the trigger or the recommendation.
And this is always like a fun question for me. Can you explain bitmark in your own words?
I guess I could describe it in the criteria and the characteristics that are most important to me, right? Like, so what I always put forward is an open source format that is able to structure content and describe content in an actually truly content first manner, consistently, that is powerful enough to also basically describe newer technologies, like also then relevant for content. I think that's a pitch that then helps with publishers, where they can basically modularize content that is driven by an association, where basically like the idea and all that infrastructure that we develop in kind of that kind of content description is owned by the members of the association, where we can then basically leverage and use that infrastructure or functionality and make it available to everybody, and from there basically work more on stuff that matters, actually, like the business cases, business models, where we then create value. But I see it as a little bit as public infrastructure, if you want to take the analogy of roads, that can be used to sort of transport things from A to B. It's kind of also publicly owned public infrastructure, where then basically people can build their businesses and business cases on that. That's those are kind of the characteristics that I find important. Open source, rich, powerful format, owned by the association, not proprietary, that allows basically business models to be created.
Fantastic. And I love the picture and the comparison with the street. That is
I'm
really
not sure
cool.
whether it's the perfect analogy, but that's kind of how
it's how you perceive it.
And exactly.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, like this co-creation is so important for both sides.
Correct. I guess the topic is not finished, and is always kind of developing. So I think the situation where we can, as you say, co-create with kind of equal partners to some extent was very beneficial and is very beneficial.
Yeah, great. And for other edtech companies, do you have any tips or learning that you had by using bitmark? One
thing is this kind of pitch to approach publishers to cooperate with a company like Classtime or another company, and those kind of cooperations are always helpful, right? The startup corporate cooperation that has several benefits, right? For the startup, to work with a brand established company that has reach in terms of customers, for the publisher to work with a startup in terms of innovation engine and developing things fast. The pitch is much easier if you say basically, hey, look, we're going through this middle layer, so to speak, right? Where it's open source. You can participate in a kind of in an open legal form as an association, where you then basically can make sure that by being open source, whatever you develop and whatever you invest is basically you can always reuse, right? It's never gonna be sunk costs, and you can actually you build the capability to afterwards work with other like-minded, with other applications, other players, other startups, making kind of that next step so much more easy, because it's just then you can optimally leverage and reuse quite a lot. That pitch with those those two elements works quite well. And the other thing is that, you know, I believe it's also in general a good thing, right? Because in a bigger and broader sense, it makes, you know, the stuff that we actually set out to do as startups, as companies, which is basically promoting learning and giving more access to education, and improving this whole learning journey. It creates basically more possibilities and more applications, because you create an ecosystem, right, that benefits in the end the student and the teachers and basically the actors in that sphere. So apart from the benefits for the company in terms of pitch, partnering with corporates, with publishers, so to speak, it has I think it has a bigger benefit in terms of serving the actors and the agents in the domain, which I think is great, and which I think should already be motivation enough to do that.
Yeah, I think so too. Thank you so much for stressing this out. So we're always stronger in networks and together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, and you know, I mean, it's the market is still very, very fragmented, right? In terms of applications, in terms of use cases, content is highly localized and fragmented. So I think it absolutely makes sense to try to bring that together on a common platform that actually exactly only fulfills this kind of this infrastructure theme, right? And makes those makes a service available that should actually be a commodity, right? That kind of service of transforming knowledge should be something that only the big guys can do, right? Because otherwise, if you have that, you create inefficiencies in the market, right? And by breaking that up, through that kind of middle layer or spider in the web, or you call it whatever you want, but basically through that common platform, I think we create huge efficiencies in the market and make value accessible to more parties.
Yeah, great. That's why we're here for.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm glad you are.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and the explanation and everything you shared with us. It's really helpful to spread bitmark.